Yo. I keep looking for a great collection to rise from the ashes of the war.
Yo, what do you desire?
To design the most beautiful women's clothing that ever existed.
Christian Dior ruined French couture, and I'm coming back to save it.
Bienvenidos a M2 y sí, hoy, por ser la fecha que es, hay un estreno bastante bueno en Apple TV y de verdad, cuando les contamos la historia de las casas de la moda a nivel mundial, de las más clásicas hoy en día, pues hay dos marcas que pues siempre estarán presentes, Chanel y Dior. Pero, ¿cuál es la historia de estas dos marcas, de las personas que lo hicieron realidad, de quién estaba detrás de las marcas en sí y cómo se alinearon a qué durante la Segunda Guerra Mundial, durante los años 40? Pues Ivett Salgado tiene entrevistas interesantísimas respecto a esta serie, como les digo, Apple TV, y bueno, platicó nada más y nada menos con el grandioso John Malkovich al respecto.
And something that seems amazing to me is how these characters were able to overcome the war, the social, the economic and political situation, and everything that came after. Because I think that what we see in these stories, how creation became a way to survive. What do you think about that?
Well, Lelong, among them, because he's probably the oldest, he's easily the oldest character in the series. They had already lived through the First World War, the Depression, the dissolution of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and then the start of the Second World War, and then the occupation of a huge part of France and the occupation of Paris in particular. And they lived in a world that, at the time, society forced them to live a secret life. You couldn't be a homosexual, you couldn't live your life openly. In some places it was against the law, period, and you would go to prison or worse. So they had very, very difficult lives, and in very difficult lives, beauty counts for a lot. Human beings need beauty and respond to beauty. And I think beauty is an antidote to, as I say, to mayhem and barbarism and cruelty. To be reminded, to see a thing of beauty or hear a thing of beauty is to be reminded that humans can make beautiful things. And a reminder that life can be beautiful, at least in parts. And given what had happened in the early part of the last century in Europe, that can be very hard to remember. Lucien Lelong, I think you're right, was someone who was an excellent enabler of talent, and someone who loved talent and loved beauty. And he loved the business he was in, and he loved doing what he did. And he loved beautiful designs. He wasn't capable really of drawing one or making one. He didn't have that gift, but he was capable of recognizing those who did have that gift. And that's how I approached him, with the added element that he lived in a very morally complex and sometimes morally compromised time.
Y los fans de Game of Thrones deben estar muy felices de volver a ver a Maisie Williams, en efecto, Arya Stark. Pero ahora en un personaje completa y absolutamente diferente en The New Look. En esta ocasión la estamos ver interpretar a la hermana de Christian Dior y es un personaje mucho más importante de lo que la historia ha descrito hasta ahora en esta batalla, en este camino, en esta creación respecto a las grandes casas de la moda. The New Look, como les decimos, ya por Apple TV, y esto nos dijo ella.
Watching the series, we can realize the power it has, and the new look is amazing. But I would like to know what impressed you the most about your character, because she's the sister of one of the greatest fashion designers, but she's also a very brave woman who helped many others. So I would like to know, how do you approach to Catherine, and what do you like the most about playing her?
Yeah. I really connected with her relationship with Christian. I have 3 big brothers, and I feel like that sibling connection is one that, you know, you only really understand like when you have them. And I think it's something that is not really explored on screen so much. But I really kind of admire the 2 of them and how much she ended up influencing a lot of his work. And I just really had no idea about her story. But yeah, I think that we kind of have this image of who Miss Dior is and the legacy that she has on the brand. But I think that I really just tried to find the girl behind that and try to connect with her decisions throughout her life and try to bring empathy and reality to the things that I read and try to put myself in her mind.
Yeah, and I think that fashion is in itself a statement of who we are, is identity, is story, is a reflection even of time. So do you see the fashion in the same way, or do you have any other idea of what fashion is?
Yeah, I think I love to look at how this collection has influenced designers since. And I think that, you know, when we think of these huge brands, we think of a sign of luxury and a sign of, status and wealth. But it's interesting to think about these designers who were just trying to survive and create businesses that, you know, would ultimately help them in their lives. And so I think that it kind of just puts these massive names into perspective, and you start to understand the people behind them.
Bien, y Todd A. Kaiser y Lorenzo Di Bonaventura son los responsables de que esto exista, son los productores, son los creadores, los showrunners de The New Look. Esta serie hemos ya visto a sus protagonistas, pero ¿quién lo hizo realidad? Bueno, Ivett Salgado platica con ellos.
What do you think is important to tell this story today? And how was the research?
Well, I'll start with the second part first. The research was really as exhaustive as we could possibly see fit to do, in that it took 7 years to make the show to get to this point in 2024, where it launches next week worldwide. And the desire was to really explore these brand names and the people behind them, and recognize that, for me, I first came across the story in 1997 of Christian Dior on the 50th anniversary of him launching his first collection in 1947. And I immediately understood that while I knew the name Dior, I didn't know anything about him as a person. And so it then led to an exploration of Dior and his contemporaries, and that so many of these really brilliant, talented artists went through similar time period of the 4-year-long Nazi occupation of Paris during World War II. And out of one of the darkest moments in human history, creativity and artistry led the way as a means of rejuvenating the human spirit, but also for them as individuals, their ability to survive.
Absolutely true. So something that seems amazing to me is how these characters, these designers were able to overcome the war, the social, economic, and political situation, and everything that came after. So how complicated was to return to the forest, talking about the production?
Yeah.
Well, I think what it was really stood out for us is how different each of their reactions was. And how they managed, it was both how they managed to survive, but also just in the face of obviously a terror like that, what is your reaction? And each of those characters have such a specific reaction that it really began to make us ask the same questions really in a way about our life. You know, well, if we were there, what would we have done? There's some parallel with COVID when everyone is forced into this, you know, cage of life. And you know, I think it's one of the things that we weren't expecting that kind of analogy. It's not why we were interested in this, because like, oh yeah, it's like COVID. But it's what happened was it did start to reflect on all of our collective experiences recently.
The New Look, Apple TV ya se estrenó hoy y pues podrán ver ahí los capítulos diferentes acerca de esta carrera que en cierta forma sigue ocurriendo sobre las grandes casas de la moda. Gracias por tus entrevistas, Ivett Salgado, gracias por la producción, equipo, Carolina, todo este equipo maravilloso. Soy Susana Moscatel, nos vemos muy pronto.
There is the truth. But there is always another truth that lives behind it.
Your sister, she's not safe.
Creation cannot stop the bullet, but creation is our way forward.
Our choices matter.
I am